السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. اللهم اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. So first of all, obviously I want to apologize for I'm late. So we'll go ahead and start. I'll try to finish as fast as possible. Although this one is a little bit long, like the explanation for it, but I'll try to be as concise as possible, inshallah. So the hadith is hadith number 33. And عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لو يعطى الناس بدعواهم لادعى رجال أموال قوم ودماءهم لكن البينة على المدعي واليمين على من أنكر. This hadith is Hasan and it is in Bayhaqi and other sources. On the authority of Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, were people to be given everything that they claimed, men would unjustly claim the wealth and lives of other people, but the onus of proof is upon the claimant, and the taking of an oath is upon him who denies. Now, to start off with the first statement of the hadith, it says, لو يعطى الناس بدعواهم. So if people were to be given what they claim is theirs, or what they unjustly, more specifically in this context, unjustly claim is theirs. It says أموالهم ودماءهم. So like the wealth of other people and their blood, which means like their lives, right? So we see the hadith like recognizes a certain truth, which is the fact that people, when obviously not governed or don't have the idea of Islam and the moral compass of Islam, people are inherently going to be greedy. People are inherently going to be oppressing and stepping upon other people's rights. And this is something that we see around us obviously right now, right? We have a very individualistic society. It's me versus everyone else. Instead of me being, I want to live with everyone in society, and I'm looking to them as other members of society and we share, etc. It's me versus them. It's a game to see who can hoard the most wealth, right? So, and even for example, when you see throughout history, like the idea of slavery existing, right? That being produced. The hadith even mentions وَدِمَاءَهُمْ, that even their lives, that people would even claim other people's lives, which even at the time of Rasulullah, that was a reality, right? There was slavery. So from that, even to that extent, that's how greedy and inherently greedy and mankind can be. So the hadith is coming from that perspective of we want to stop this greediness. We want to stop this oppression. We have to have a solution for this this issue that arises in society. Because Islam came to solve all of our issues, and it came not just to rectify our moral compass, which it did, right? To give us certain morals, but also to apply that on society. And the reason why I say this is because there's kind of two categories of people, right? Number one is a person who, let's say, believes in Islam, adopts, the ideas of Islam, etc. So when he hears a hadith, he says, okay, I can't do this, this is haram, right? Yeah, okay, it's like that. But someone else, for example, who he might even be a Muslim or not be a Muslim, but he says, you know what, I don't care. I want to do this thing even though it's wrong. I will do it. And this is, again, a basic idea from where a society and a government and etc. all comes from, is the fact that at the end of the day, even when you lay down certain rules, some people won't follow the rules, right? Some people just won't follow the rule. Whether they're a Muslim or not Muslim, that's not the point. They aren't following that rule. So there has to be some kind of governing factor or some kind of like system that you follow to say, okay, this person didn't follow the rule, so there is this quote-unquote consequence. Or this person, he did, so he doesn't have this consequence. So that's what kind of this hadith, that's the perspective I want you guys to have when looking at this hadith. It's looking to solve this problem of people oppressing each other, whether economically, etc., oppressing each other and having this natural greediness in solving disputes in court. So not just economic, but disputes in court. And one important thing is that Rasulullah ﷺ's next words, they're steps that must be taken to protect society from such behavior. And these quote-unquote steps are the laws or judicial processes that have been enacted to protect everyone's rights, life, and property. Okay. So the next part of the hadith says, لكن البينة على من ادعى على المدعي, which means that the bayina, the burden of proof, this bayina is a clear proof, is a proof with evidence. This proof is upon the one who makes the claim. So if I can make a claim that, okay, this person, they did 1, 2, 3 to me, and I want my rights in this scenario. So let's say we're in front of a judge. The burden of proof is upon me. And in judicial terminology, or in Sharia, for example, they'll call it a plaintiff, right? So the burden of proof is upon the plaintiff. And this is for two main reasons. Number one, the one making the claim, the reason why the burden of proof is on him is because it's not something that's apparent or obviously true. So the reason why obviously he's coming and making this claim is because that he's trying to ask for his rights, but again, it's not apparent and obviously true out in the open that, okay, clearly X did this to Y, so there's no need to have a whole court and discuss it, etc. It's already obvious. But no, it's something that's not obviously true, but he's claiming it happened. And look at, and again, throughout this whole lecture, we'll see like the beauty of Islam and how it systemically takes care of the affairs of people in a very just manner. Because you see that even though I'm coming and saying, oh, I'm Muslim and I'm saying this happened, even then, there is trust, but at the end of the day, bring your proof, bring evidence. So you have to prove it in a court. And then number two, and this is a very key important principle, the other party is considered free of guilt or responsibility until proven otherwise. So again, the common saying, innocent until proven guilty. It's the same principle in Islam. That someone is innocent and completely free of guilt, completely, until it's proven in a Sharia court that, okay, this person did 1, 2, 3, and the consequence is this. And then, to get into some of the witness criteria, because obviously, for example, let's say I'm making a claim against someone, and the person's, and we're discussing this in court or whatever, someone has to take a witness. So let's say I'm trying to bring a witness to say, okay, look, here's my witness on this thing happened. Or let's just take someone stole, for example, and I'm bringing my witnesses, like 2 witnesses, right? When I'm bringing these 2 witnesses, there's criteria even for the witnesses. And they're very basic criteria, so sane and competent, obviously. Number 2, adult. Number 3, Muslim. Number 4, sound memory. So he has to be known to be someone whose memory is intact, sound. And then the 5th one is a very important one. And again, to notice the way Islam organizes our lives, right? The 5th one is a person of integrity and honesty. So it can't be some random person who, or not some random person, but someone who is known to be a liar. Someone who is known, like the people around him can't, like when his name is mentioned, they'll be like, yeah, I know that guy, he lies, or he's not a good Muslim, or 1, 2, 3. This person's witness isn't even accepted in court. So notice like the requirements that Islam puts to make sure that we're dealing with justice, that you want to organize the affairs of the people in a just manner. So I'm not going to take the witness of someone who is known to be a liar. And then, even if, it's another interesting point, even if a witness meets the above requirements, his witness will not be accepted if there is a clear conflict of interests. And for example, if a witness is closely related to either disputant, an open opponent to one of the parties, or he is to gain from the outcome of the trial, his witness will not be considered acceptable. So if someone has a interest on one side versus the other, or for example, maybe let's say he's a relative of one side and he doesn't, he clearly supports this one person over the other, or for example, he has something to gain from this trial in the first place, then his witness, even if he fulfills the above requirements, even if he's the most person of integrity and honesty and is very Muslim, etc., his testimony isn't accepted. So look how far Islam goes to make sure justice is implemented and the trial is fair for both sides. And just another key point, being a witness is a fard kifaya, and it can become fard ayn if there's no one to do that witness. So again, it's also another perspective to take, that look how Islam makes a communal obligation to take a witness upon something that you saw. like if you saw someone stealing, for example, and you have that information, like you were there and you saw it, etc. It obviously it's fard kifaya in the situation that there's multiple other people, but fard ayn if you were one of the only ones who saw that happen, and you're being asked to come. And this is in the Quran. In Surah Al-Baqarah, it says, وَلَا يَأْبَ الشُّهَدَاءُ إِذَا مَا دُعُوا. The witnesses must not refuse when they're summoned. So when you're summoned to be a witness, you should not refuse. And we even have like the same system here in America, for example. Not the same system, but it's similar in the sense that if a citizen gets called and gets a letter sent, like, okay, come and be a jury, right? So it's part of a communal civic duty, etc. Obviously, in the Islamic context, it's in an Islamic manner, versus over here they see it as like a civil duty. And now, the number of witnesses is also another very important topic. And Islam does not require the same number of witnesses for every type of crime or transaction. So depending on the level of the crime or the seriousness of the crime, more or less witnesses can be required. So for example, when it's zina, four men are required as witnesses to prove someone's guilt. 4 men. To give another example, theft or stealing or alcohol, only two men are sufficient to conclude the person's guilty. So look at the difference in the different level of crime. And again, even look at like the type, like four men have to be a witness to this act of zina for it to be concluded in Sharia. So look how careful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in organizing the affairs of people. It's a very careful, very you can say meticulous, it's a very well planned out system. And that's why we always say we want Islam to be ruling our entire life. We want to live our entire life by Islam. Obviously we can't right now, we don't have Sharia courts right now, but we want that to happen because we see the justice, and inshallah that's the one thing to take away from this lecture today, inshallah, is the justice of the Islamic judicial system. And then when it comes to the topic of female witnesses, they are accepted in cases where they have information that men don't. So obviously in cases of, for example, pregnancy or etc., or a woman was the only one there, or she could have been the only person there, then of course her witness is accepted. And then here's some cases where a woman's testimony is equal to a man's, because again, this is a very big topic that people discuss, right? Like, oh, some people, especially Orientalists, will come up with this idea that, in Islam, a woman's testimony is not accepted and it's only a man's, etc. It's not true. So some cases where a woman's testimony is equal to a man's is, for example, if she's a subject matter expert. So if she has information on a certain topic, like specific, and she's well learned in a certain topic. So for example, if a woman's a doctor, then she's a subject matter expert on that topic, and her witness is equal to a man's witness on that topic. And then number 2, for example, sighting of the moon, especially in Ramadan. It doesn't matter which gender is sighting the moon, both are accepted. And this is the most important point I wanted to bring up today also, on this topic of women's testimony. Women's testimony is also accepted in Hadith. And this is something we all know, right? We all know that, okay, for example, Aisha radhiyallahu anha, she's one of the biggest narrators of Hadith. You all know this, right? But think deeper, from the sense that the biggest testimony, the biggest, most important testimony in witness in Islam is witnessing and taking testimony that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said something, or did something, or proved something. This is the biggest testimony. So it's the most important testimony. So if this claim that Orientalists make in terms of, women don't get the same rights as men, etc., in being a witness, then why would the most important thing in Islam? Remember, because if a certain hadith is correct or incorrect, if someone makes up a hadith, you're literally changing the religion, literally, from the root. So if this huge, important topic allows men and women alike, both to be witness and testimony, that shows the fairness of Islam. That even though these claims, etc., fly around, that, and again, this is something that comes from, it's inherently from their society. They have these flaws where they oppressed women, etc. They had women's suffrage only happened maybe 100 years ago, around that time, whereas Islam had it from day one, right? So these claims come from a sense of like they're projecting their own issues onto Islam. So you take that key point away, that even in a hadith, that the most important the most important witness you can take in terms of Islam, women's testimony is accepted. And then there are some cases though, just so we have information, there are some cases though where one man's testimony is equal to two women's testimony. And that is a case of like specifically economics, so transactions, etc. So matters of wealth, business, financial, those kind of stuff. And then there are cases, or one case, where a woman's testimony is not accepted at all. And that is, as Zuhri is reported to have said, the sunnah since the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the two caliphs after him is that the testimony of women is not permissible in case of hudud. So if it's a had, so notice how when I said zina, theft, alcohol, etc., all of it is said for men or two men. In those cases of hudud, which is I think 7, in those punishments, that one has to be a man. And now, to get into another big subject, which is lying as a witness. In Islam, this is a huge sin. A huge sin. And this is narrated in the Hadith. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, أَلَا أُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِأَكْبَرِ الْكَبَائِرِ. So should I not tell you guys or let you guys know about the biggest of the major sins? أَكْبَرِ الْكَبَائِرِ. قُلْنَا بَلَا يَا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. The Sahaba said, of course, Ya Rasulullah, and please let us know. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, الإشراك بالله والعقوق الوالدين وكان متكئا فجلس فقال ألا وقول الزور فما زال يكررها حتى قلنا ليته سكت متفق عليه. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, number 1, shirk in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he said, number 2, to be not dutiful to your parents, to not be dutiful to your parents. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sitting down and he got up and he sat up, like he was reclining, like kind of like laying down, and he sat up into like a sitting position. And he said, I warned it very harshly. I warn you of making a false statement in giving a false testimony. And he repeated it, and he kept on repeating it until the Sahaba, radiyallahu anhum, they had wished that this person, they had wished that Rasulullah ﷺ would stop. They wish that this person who is making this false statement would never do that. Like, it became something that they're so scared of. And again, the reason why is because the portion of Hadith says, وَالْيَمِينَ عَلَى مَنْ أَنْكَرَ. Yameen, that the oath, right? The oath. So again, it's this idea that when you're in a Sharia court, you're swearing by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I will tell the truth and nothing but the truth, right? And this isn't like, you're swearing by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you bring a witness or you take an oath, in both situations, you have to be truthful. And it's not like any other lying that you do outside. This is lying in a court system, right? And we'll see many hadiths on this topic, and we'll go over maybe one more by the end of this. But it's a very serious situation. Islam takes it very seriously. And our next part of the hadith says, وَالْيَمِينَ عَلَى مَنْ أَنْكَرَ. This is the last part of the hadith. The defendant is required to clear himself by taking an oath. And this happens when the claimant, the person bringing the evidence, cannot provide enough, like a strong evidence to clearly show that this person has done something. And this is an important point. He's not forced to present any proof that he's innocent or free of the claims against him. And this is a point of disagreement in terms of Hanafis, Shafis, Hanbalis agree that in every case the plaintiff requests it, the defendant is required to take an oath. In Malikis have a slightly different opinion, but the point is, in general, the defendant, the person who the claim is being made against. So if someone says that I did 1, 2, 3, that for example I stole, then I have to take an oath, right, to clear myself of this issue. But I don't have to bring any tangible proof. I have to make the oath. And it's customary that the judge, and he reminds both parties and everyone involved that taking an oath by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a very serious matter, and that the severity of lying on oath. And we'll see another hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam where he says, "Man halafa ala yaminin huwa fiha fajirun." So whoever swears, takes an oath, and in it he's lying. لا يقتطع بها مال امرئ مسلم لقي الله وهو عليه غضبان. So, and he takes with that lying oath the money of someone else who's Muslim, and obviously unjustly, because he's lied in the oath, then he will meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala وهو غضبان, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be angry at him. just from the beginning. So this is something that's very, very serious, and Islam takes it very seriously. And obviously, there's deeper topics in this whole subject, right? We just covered the baseline today. Like for example, what if the defendant refuses to take the oath? There's situations like that. Or for example, can we make the plaintiff take an oath? So the person who's bringing the proof and saying, oh, this 1, 2, 3 happened. He has evidence. Can we make him take an oath, right? Because, for example, he might be bringing evidence and bringing this and that, but he doesn't want to swear on oath. Because again, there's even a story I was reading when I was researching before this. There was a story of, it was, if I remember correctly, it was a Sahabi, and then a Jewish man who had taken some of his property. And the point is, towards the end of the Hadith, it talks about how they ended up in court, etc. And Rasulullah ﷺ reminded them, like, the severity of lying under oath. And even the Jewish guy who he was lying, after that reminder, he said, okay, no, yeah, he said, I give it up. It was actually his property the whole time. It wasn't mine, and he gave it up. So again, the reminder of the severity of lying under oath, even a non-Muslim recognized that and backed away, right? So again, there's deeper topics in terms of like details of when to take an oath, when to not take an oath, what to do in certain situations where there is no witness, etc. But to close off, some key takeaways is that, again, Islam is a system that organizes our entire life. It's a system that has come to organize everything in your life and to organize it in the best manner. Because we see, for example, today, especially in judicial court systems here in America, how many times do you have situations where, because this person is wealthy, because this person is a man, because this person is, for example, white or a certain skin color, this person gets away with something. This happens, right? Because, again, the perspective you have to have as Muslims is this court system in the first place is it's the laws of man. It's the laws of the creation versus the laws of the Creator. And that is something, that comparison that we can't even compare, we can't even begin to understand the difference between the laws of man versus the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will infinitely always be better. And this is, it's a very important topic to understand the justice of Islam in terms of this topic. And to add one small hadith, or actually a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, where Ali radiallahu anhu was sent as a judge, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, when two disputing parties come to you, then do not pass a judgment against one party until you hear the other person's case. So again, we didn't cover the details of how I go about the court case, but I wanted to add this small hadith in there just to show that Islam requires you to listen to both sides first. You're required. The judge isn't allowed to just hear one side of the argument and say, okay, my judgment's passed, there's too much evidence, okay, it's done. Which the stuff happens here, right? So again, just to highlight the difference between the Islamic judicial system and Islam as a way of life in general, compared to every other way of life and currently live in America, right? And the last closing off point is that Islam is the most practical religion out of all the other religions. I want to mention that because, for example, if you study Christianity or study Judaism or Hinduism, etc., any other religion, you see that they always lack this practical aspect. This aspect that this religion comes with not just the way to organize your spiritual life, your personal life, but also to organize society. You have a judicial system, a social system, economic system, etc. So I just wanted to add that last point, inshallah. And with that, we'll take questions. Jazakumullah khair. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.